Righto, so today we'll take a look at working with reference files, so DVGs and PDFs mainly. You can probably do it with all the other DXFs and all those other file formats as well, but the ones that we tend to use most are DVGs and PDFs, so I'll just concentrate on that sort of stuff. So quite often we are faced with a situation where we might be, say, modelling up an existing building, and all we've got is like some PDF plans, or we're trying to build up a site plan and we've only got DVG plans from a surveyor or something like that. So we need to work out a way of getting that information into our drawings and an easy way of working with it. So rather than having a printout beside you measuring off and putting everything in. So for the last few versions of ArchiCAD, we've been able to import PDFs and DVGs and other files. And in more recent versions, we have an even tidier way of working with them. We're called Worksheets. So Worksheets are down here. Now, what we tend to do is probably, if we create, like if we've got a whole lot of different sort of information that we're going to be wanting to reference against, so existing floor plans, maybe existing elevations, cross sections, site details, traffic plans. What else we've got on here? Structural information, so from engineers, electrical, KSL, all that sort of stuff. So we're able to bring all that in and have it sitting in the file so that it's easy to reference and we're not hunting for it all the time. So best way to do that is to create these worksheets. Now these are just 2D workspaces. I've created one here, but I'll show you to go through the process. So just go to the Worksheets tab here in the project map and right click and create a new independent worksheet. And if you're not a mouse user, you can do it up here, documenting tools, and create independent worksheet. So click in there, brings up a window to give it a name. Call this one site and create. So takes us to this blank workspace. Still works like everything else in ArchiCAD, so we can still have control over all our layers and graphic overrides and renovation filters, scale, everything like that, pen sets. Now, okay, for this one here, well, actually on that first one, I had set up, I'd already brought in a DVG. So that's already placed there. And now I'll do this one here with a PDF, and then we'll go through and show you just some of the differences and things you can do. So we go File, External Content, and Place External Drawing. Now we can go hunting for it. So once you know where it's stored, and I want to import this one here, which is, oh, I didn't even check what that was, so hopefully it's right. Yep, okay, that's a little trick. Okay, so this is obviously our car parking layout and some other site works around the site. So that's just coming straight as a PDF, and it could be at the wrong scale, so we don't actually know at the moment if it's at the right scale. So the best thing to do is find a known measurement. And in fact, I know these car parks here are 2.7 meters wide, but it's always good if you're going to do this is to find as big a measurement as you can just to get accuracy. So I don't think, no, I haven't got anything else really on here to go by. So we'll go by these car parks. So we know that they are 2.7 wide. So if we now just grab a line, and unfortunately we can't link to points or endpoints in a PDF. But, so it's just a best guess estimate. And okay, so that's only 535. So my PDF is a bit small. So now I need to enlarge it. So I need to make this line here. This is horrible. 2.7 long. So if we go 2700 minus. Okay, so that each car park should be that wide to be at scale. So now I go and grab my PDF and zoom back up onto the area we want to check or enlarge and go Control K, which is resize. Don't ask me where to find that in the menu because I've only ever used the shortcuts, unfortunately. So it's probably in the edit. Sorry, there it is there. Edit, reshape, and it's resize. So we're going to resize. So we want to go. Okay, resize. So we want to do it graphically. So you can actually do this manually as well. So if you know what scale the drawing you brought in is showing it and what you want it to be, you can do it by using these settings up here. But it's easiest to do it graphically. And this actually doesn't even apply just to bringing a drawing in. This can be part of your model as well. So if you've modeled something up and it needs to be increased proportionately, everything increased the same proportion, you can use the same command and turn on and off what you don't want to change. So you could change the shape of a building if you're increasing the size of it, but tell it, turn this off to let it know that you don't want to increase wall thicknesses proportionately. Otherwise, if you double the size of the building, the wall thicknesses will increase twice the size as well. So I'll just leave those on for now because we've got nothing there. Now I want to tell it what 2 points now need to be 2.7 meters apart. So I start here and I go along to the first part there and then carry on till my pen turns black at the end of my line. And now we have a at scale PDF site plan. So now if I go back to my Esmaperos, I can then turn this go back into here. So now I can put my reference layer in the background. So we come down and we try and find the one that we just set up. So there was that one there. So I right click on it and show as trace reference. And bang, that shows up right in the middle of our drawing. Now you'll notice that my drawing and the PDF are not quite aligned. So we want to tidy them up. We could have taken the time in this stage of setting up the worksheet to put that PDF in a correct reference location because I've got other drawings that are located, we've located them all the same reference point so that you don't have to muck around when you bring them in. But now we want to move that background drawing so that it lines up with our main drawing. So we come in here and the easiest one is to turn on your trace reference palette. And then this gives us the commands on what we want to do. So now we come here and we want to drag our reference. So we click on there and then we find a point on our reference that matches a point on our building. A good point is probably the corner of the building. So we just click on there and drag over to there. oops, not quite there. And once you've dragged and dropped your reference, your control over the reference stops until you click one of these little commands again. So then you've got to go back here, click back on there, and quite a good idea to zoom in as close as you can get to get it accurate. And then click on the arrow, the tick, sorry. So now we have our drawing in place, but it's still skewed. So now we can come back in here and rotate our reference. So same as in your rotate command, choose where we're rotating from there and where we're rotating to. And there's our drawing, and so you can see here how I'm slightly out with my scaling of this building because I was using such a small dimension to start with. So now it's a good idea to go back and rescale our reference file. So the easiest way to probably do that is just grab, place a line, make it a different color so we can see it. So grab that, draw a line from there to there, and then cut it. And come back to our reference file, which is, where are you? Oh, it's up in here. And I can paste that into here. Drag it down to here, click outside, rotate it back around, and then we'll resize to that line. And so you can see there we're just a little bit out. So now grab our drawing again and Control K, Command K on your Macs. Come up here, and always best to use the guideline here, because then you know you're working in a straight and accurate line pathway. So come to sort of the same point on the drawing, and then back down here until that pen turns black, and click. And so now that should be the correct dimensions. So now our site plan is basically at the correct scale, and we can then trace over that to do whatever we need to import that information into our drawing. You can vary the intensity of the color of the reference file depending on how much you really want to see it. So you can hide it away, change the color if you prefer other colors. You share it out pink, Stephen. You can vary the intensity of the active one as well. So if you've got a bad quality reference file, you can dull down the working file so that you can actually see what you're trying to trace. You can then also pull back the reference file so that you can check out, stuff, and you can do that the other way as well. So, and you switch the So now the actual the worksheets on top, so you could adjust anything in there that you needed to adjust. Being a PDF, there's probably nothing you need to do. So that's the PDF. Now if we go to the DVG option, so it didn't turn out to be the same file like I thought I was copying, but this is a bigger file of the surrounding area of that same car park area. So this was brought in as a DVG. Now, a couple of things to remember here is if you're just bringing a file in as a reference file, we don't need it to be brought in as lines in DVGs. Only tend to bring in lines and arcs and stuff like that. So, because what that does is it creates a whole lot of extra layers and these DVGs tend to have hundreds of layers. So best way to bring these in is just to bring in basically the same way we did the PDF, external drawing, place external drawing, and then just grab it, open, and check your scale and place, and it will ask you where you want to put it. There we go. And I was thinking, yeah, so let's just place that over there. Oops. That. Now, you can see here, this has got lots and lots of lines. These sort of site plans come in with all sorts of information on them, half of which you don't really want. So if all you're after is, say, some street layouts and some topographical information, like these contours and stuff, what you can do is you can go through here and it brings this DVG in with all the layers within the drawing still. So you can still find out what layers things are on within that drawing. So now that's obviously the building, the lines to show the building. So the embedded layer there, is that Rakanukset or how do you say that word and finish? So what we can do is we can then open up this drawing and start hiding some layers if we want to get rid of that sort of stuff. So we can go to the drawing zone layers and start switching off what we don't want. If I understood any more of that, I could do them automatically within here, but you guys obviously will know what's what in there and you could switch them off easily. So if I go back now, it's hidden all those lines out of that DVG. So you can quickly go through and trim that DVG back so it's only showing you the stuff that you really want to see. Otherwise it gets real confusing, like when you're trying to trace over something like this and you've got, you know, all these boundary lines here if you don't need those, or even the trees. You can get rid of the greenery layers there. Hoyakata. So if I then grab that and so a lot of that stuff has gone, so now we're left with, in this instance, just the site boundaries and roads making it a lot easier to navigate our way around. And then probably the only other thing really to add on working with reference files like this is to keep the naming reasonably tidy so you know what they are. So we sort of started off this project by just listing them out by number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then giving them a name. We found once we got up to about 20 that it was starting to get like a hunt for a needle in a haystack sometimes, trying to find the correct reference. So what we devised was just a little naming system where we can it's not letting me change the settings here, but to bring this up as a separate window. But in here, we just decided that it's easiest to start the reference with like a three-letter code for the type of drawing. So ARC for our architectural drawings, or LVI for stuff, HVAC, heating and ventilating stuff, SAR obviously for the electrical, LII for the traffic. So and then from there give them a number. So 01 if it's ground floor, 2 for the next floor, just to keep some sort of order, and then you can quickly find the reference files that you want. So yeah, that's all for today on using references. So thank you very much, and we'll catch you next week.
I didn't quite understand what the resizing of the drawing, if the wall doubles, does that also change all of your sort of attributes of how you've built up the wall?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, well, it will